Welcome to UND Insider Weekly. Alongside Brad Schlossman and Tom Miller from the Grand Forks Herald and Paul Ralston from UND Athletics, I'm Tim Hennessy. Nice weekend passed. We've got hockey, we've got football, we've got volleyball, soccer was in action, I don't know what else. Let's start with hockey at the Ralph. It was a big weekend. A lot of people were talking about that one and preparing for a big series with Providence, ranked 5 in the country, North Dakota ranked 3, arguably top 2 goaltenders maybe in all of college hockey going at it. And UND had their A game, Brad, on Friday night. I don't think there's any doubt about that, is there?
Yeah, they played about as well as you can play. I think Providence had a tough time with the pace that UND played at. All 4 lines played pretty well, and they got to Gillies early. They poured it on in the second period, and he didn't even play in the third period. So not the recipe for success on the road for Providence.
To me, the most impressive thing was any way Providence wanted to play, UND said, okay, we'll play that way, and we'll beat you that too. I mean, it reminded me of the old days when they want to play with speed and try to run with us, we'll beat you that way. You want to start knocking people around, we'll knock you around, and we'll win that way. You want to take penalties, we'll take penalties, we'll kill the penalties, you won't. It's just an impressive victory overall, and I think underneath the whole thing, whether you want to talk about the Gillies and McIntyre matchup or not, Dave McIntyre was really good.
He was terrific. I thought both nights he was really good. And the first night, the score gets a little out of hand. You forget about some of the saves that he makes. Early in the game especially. I thought he did the same thing in other games. And this time, he makes a couple saves, keeps it scoreless, keeps it a 1-goal UND lead, and then they're able to pour it on instead of Providence getting comfortable and maybe settling into their game. He did the same against Colorado College that first night too. He made a couple big saves. And Saturday night, I thought he was good throughout the whole night. Made several big saves, and Gillies obviously stepped up his game a little bit Saturday, and he played terrific too.
Tom, what were your impressions? You were there.
Yeah, there was just a few guys that were kind of my first, this is only the second and third game I've seen this season, so.
Well, he saw them play the opener against Bemidji State,
yeah,
so he hasn't seen them play yet.
So there were guys that weren't in that opener that I was getting my first chance to see, guys like Tucker Pullman. You kind of get to see what he can do at 6'3", 220 pounds, some of the things he does like a small guy. Nick Schmaltz, got to see some of the wow factor with him. We got to see Bryn Chizik and the different look he has brought this year. Johnny Simonson already producing. So we got to see some guys for the first time that I didn't know a whole lot about. Trevor Olson, another guy that's kind of interesting to watch.
The 2-2 tie on Saturday night, I think it kind of didn't look that good as far as, they come out 2-2 after blowing them away the first night. But, Providence obviously slowed things down a little bit. They mucked things up in the neutral zone, and they wanted to play at their pace a little bit. I still thought North Dakota played well in that, despite the fact they ended up 2-2.
Yeah, I thought so too. And Providence is a team that's going to go on and win a lot of games out in Hockey East. This weekend, I think the disappointing part for UND is that they were so close to getting the sweep, and that they weren't able to get it. But when you look as the weekend as a whole, if you were to say coming into this weekend that UND is going to get a win and a tie, that would be a good result for them. That's going to help them come to the end of the season.
Tough part was losing Mark McMillan for who knows how long.
That's obviously a huge concern because he was playing terrific for them. 7 points last weekend. He was, probably his best weekend at UND. So big concern right there. And as we were talking about into the game, who's going to win the big face-off for them? No one did this time. Mark was the guy who would have been penciled in to do that.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. The football team was in Cedar City, Utah, to play Southern Utah, and we might have even played it up on the program as well. That this is a great opportunity for UND to get their first Big Sky road victory, and maybe we have to pull in the reins a little bit, Paul, or because I know Bubba, hearing him after the game, he wasn't happy with the way the team performed.
I think it was a good opportunity to pick up a road victory in Big Sky play. I think that Southern Utah. Kudos to them, congratulations to them for winning the game. But at the same time, North Dakota had a chance going into that game. If you look, even after the game, I said that was a winnable football game, and Bubba was dead on afterwards that he was upset with his team not coming in ready to compete right from the get-go. It got North Dakota on their heels right away, especially defensively. That was a little bit of a interesting kind of way that game turned out, is that the defense, where they've been really good technically tackling throughout the season in most of their games. They haven't had too many missed tackles, but there was just too many on this day. And you also notice where players are dropping passes. They're not focused. They're not especially in critical situations. That was one of the reasons why we saw them have success against Portland State. We saw the drop balls really become an issue against Southern Utah in the first half when North Dakota had a chance to close the gap and just weren't able to get some guys to hold onto the ball in crucial situations. So it's a frustrating one leaving Cedar City here on Saturday.
Must have been kind of windy because you kind of burned, not so much here.
but right here, and it feels that way too. It was windy, and it was a factor in the game. And North Dakota did something interesting. They took a side of the field to start the game when they won the coin toss, which I know some fans are really concerned about that because Southern Utah ended up with the ball to start both halves, but actually they didn't do anything with the ball to start in the second half, and then North Dakota actually had a great third quarter, just couldn't continue it into the fourth quarter. They just kind of lost momentum for some reason in the fourth quarter. But a lot of interesting situations that have developed here. We've seen North Dakota lose Joe Molberg to a season-ending injury in that game, and so this team just has to continue to cope and deal. We'll see how they move forward here, but it was a tough game all the way around on Saturday.
Who's going to back up now? Who's going to be the most popular player in town now?
Tom?
Grafton's hero, Jake Hansen's going to be the backup. Hasn't played it down, but going with Ryan.
Why isn't Hansen in there? I can hear it now.
So this team has its starting quarterback, Joel Malberg's out for the year.
Yes.
Starting running back, Cedric Simmons. Out
Is
for the
he
year.
out for the year for sure?
Yes.
That is for sure. Okay.
Starting wide receiver,
RJ McGill.
Out
Starting
for the year.
tight end.
Yeah.
Kyle Rue, yeah.
Well, before this season, if we just said, where would this offense be without Josh Seibel? It would almost be laughable, but right now it's true.
That's a very true statement right now with the way he's playing. One bright spot, I should say, that from Saturday that we're probably glancing over a little bit is Jared Garman right now, and I think people have typically looked at Jerry. He's been a spot player, and how is he going to fit in as a regular running back? He actually made some nice plays, some nice runs. It was a positive, bright spot for him. After the game, he said, "I feel horrible because we lost the game." He's like, "But at the same time, I'm hoping to build off this. This gives me a little hope moving forward, confidence, and that's good to see." There's a guy that's been in the program for a while, and he's taking advantage of his opportunity. That's good to see moving forward.
Down in Ritter Arena in Minneapolis, it didn't go so well for Coach Brian Adolski's UND women's hockey team. They got taken to the cleaners a couple of times by Minnesota. Maybe not so bad on Friday night, but Brad, what happened Saturday night?
Yeah, Friday they're within a goal with about 3 minutes to go. They pull their goalie, hoping to get the extra attacker goal to tie it. Doesn't work out. Saturday, the complete opposite happened, where they were outshot 51-4 to start the game. I think it was 51-7 by the end, and just obviously did not come close to repeating Friday night's performance. I saw Minnesota's coach said he thought that was their best performance in a long time, and he said, "I'm talking years." So Minnesota, best team in the country, played really well. UND clearly did not play well, because you need to test Minnesota more than that, and that's a far ways off from beating them.
So that's where the adage comes from, the ice was tilted.
Yeah, the ice was certainly tilted on Saturday. I'm really curious to see them come back home now and play Wisconsin, coming off that game, to see how they can respond from that game.
That was just a shock to me, because we had thought, and obviously they had, the way they've competed with the top teams, that you certainly don't expect. That you might have expected, 10 years ago, but for some reason.
Well, I mean, they've had more.
It's just one of those anomalies or whatever they call it.
Well, I mean, Ritter Arena is a place where no one's really had success, but UND has. They're the one team that's gone down there, and they've beat them 4 times down there in the last couple of years, and they've played the Gophers as well as anyone. They played them fairly well on Friday night, so yeah, to see that come back Saturday, definitely a huge shock.
Volleyball team, Paul, that's your beat. And they split it. But Thursday night was,
Thursday night, I'm not sure where the team was. Just was one of those games, matches that you really just had to shake your head about. Northern Arizona is obviously very talented. They got 2 really great, outstanding players on the outside that really hurt North Dakota time and time again. I was curious to see how they would come into Saturday's match, and thankfully they responded, because this is the critical stretch now run into the Big Sky Conference tournament. Not a lot of margin for error if they even want to hold any hope for hosting the tournament. But I think right now Coach Pryor is probably thinking, we no matter where the tournament ends up, we just need to be going into that tournament playing at our very highest level, and looking at Thursday against Northern Arizona, a very quality opponent. They've got a ways to go there.
Interesting lineup changes for Saturday too.
Yeah, I noticed that. Obviously I was at Southern Utah, and I only was reading some notes, and I saw that they went with the freshman setter instead of Nikki Husfeldt. I'm not sure if they're just looking to build some depth or felt that they had a game where they could try some things, but certainly was interesting, and we'll see how that kind of plays out as we get further along here with the remainder of the schedule.
There you go. You got all the answers, whether or not you had questions or not. Coming up, a lot of matchups on the schedule for this Halloween weekend, and we'll preview some of the big games next.
Here's to everyone who believes in competition and good sportsmanship, who knows it's not about the trophies or the medals, but rather the lessons learned. For those who understand, it's not whether you win or lose, just that you give your best. So go ahead, lace them up, take the field, have fun, and play. For the experience, for the memories, for the love of the game, Shields.
Cities Area Transit. We go where you go.
Did you know that riding the city bus is free for UND and Northland students?
I ride the bus so I don't have to find a parking spot, and then I'm always within an easy walking distance to all of my classes.
I'm going green, so I ride my bike everywhere. But when the weather turns bad, I take the bus. And why not? It's free.
Cities Area Transit. Enjoy the ride.
North Dakota basketball is almost here and big game plans are back. Secure your big game plan and lock in seats for the most anticipated games. Get 4 big games for defending Big Sky champions UND women's basketball, including the home game with Minnesota for only $30. North Dakota men's basketball big game plans include 4 key Big Sky Conference games, also for only $30. Purchase your big game plans online at UNDsports.com or in person at Ralph Engelstedt Arena.
UND Insider Weekly is sponsored by Shields and Grand Forks Cities Area Transit.
It's a fight for first place in the North in the Big Sky as volleyball takes on Northern Colorado. Get your tickets at Ralph Engelstedt box office or online at UNDsports.com. Action gets underway Saturday live on Fox Sports North Plus starting at noon. This weekend, got men's and women's hockey in town. Start with the women. We talked about the troubles they had at Minnesota. Now they've got Wisconsin in, and if Minnesota's the number 1 team in the country, who's that put Wisconsin?
Yeah, Wisconsin's right behind them. I think they're 3 this week in the polls, and a lot of people voting them 2. The big question mark coming into the season for the women's hockey team was how they're going to score goals. Right now they have 6 goals in their last 5 games. Wisconsin, traditionally one of the stingiest teams in the country defensively under Mark Johnson, so it's not going to get any easier this weekend. And like we talked about, I'm really curious how they respond to that tough game on Saturday night where nothing seemed to go their way.
The football team will be out of town. They'll be in Eastern Washington. Are they getting the stud back?
We'll find out. Everybody.
Bobby Schweiger said this week they're going to practice to prepare for him.
Yeah, it would make sense. Eastern Washington just lost last week to Northern Arizona. I'm sure they're thinking they can't afford another one. Do they feel like they can sneak by 1 week, get through North Dakota, and play Montana with Vernon Adams? I'm sure there's plenty of discussion in Washington about that.
I go to this situation. Last year was an excellent lesson in this. Denarius McGee for Montana State. Going into the week, Montana State was like, he's sitting, he's resting. Game day, you see him out there, he's ready to go. And so I think North Dakota's taking the prudent route or preparing for Vernon Adams. He's an outstanding quarterback. He just gives them so many versatile threats, basically. He can throw it so very accurately, and then he runs so very well. So for North Dakota, for them, unfortunately with the injury situation like we've talked about, it's next man up. And that's what's going to have to be here with this team. And to be perfectly honest with you, I think with that philosophy and still the way that they want to play, if they're able to play that way, still can have success and still still have opportunities to be successful coming up on Saturday.
Well, if I recall correctly, the Denarius McGee situation was similar, where they just lost the week before too, didn't they? Or
I believe
they
it
had
was.
lost a couple games,
Yep.
so they forced him back in. So we might be seeing the repeat of that.
Can Eastern Washington scores a ton of points? Can they keep anybody else from scoring? I think that's the big thing, huh? Big question mark.
Can UND score a ton of points?
Yeah, UND's offense can't get into that Big Sky style shootout. It's just
Come
not,
on.
It's not made. And it's not because Ryan Bartles isn't good enough to handle what Joe Moberg was doing. It's the pieces around him are new and young, and everybody's a little banged up.
The men's hockey team will be at home against Air Force Academy in the Hall of Fame game on Saturday night. Frank Serratori will come in. His team they'll play just as hard as his brother Tom's at Bemidji State has. And Air Force comes off a split, I think, with RIT last weekend. What are you expecting from Air Force Academy?
I'm expecting to be able to publish the best quotes of the year with Frank Serratori coming into town. Obviously, one of the most colorful figures in college hockey. It'll be great to have him in here. And Air Force is a team, they'll have a little bit of familiarity. Chad Demers from Grafton is on that team. He's one of their best players. Their top line scores a lot. Chad Demers is on that line, so that's the line to key on. If you can keep him and Cole Gunner and Scott Holm off the scoreboard, then you've got a good chance to win the game, because those guys produce so much for Air Force.
And it's the same old song and dance as far as UND goes for non-conference play. You can't be messing around with anything in this one. You got to go get it.
Well, what's going to be really big for them is that the rest of their non-conference schedule, the rest of the teams have a combined record of 2-22 right now, because Niagara's winless, Lake State's winless, Wisconsin's winless. Air Force is the only team left in non-conference that's won games. So you start losing to teams with really bad records, it can really hurt that old pairwise. And
they have to take care of themselves, because nobody else in the conference is doing it for them, right?
The conference is,
early.
It's been a little.
Everyone in the country seems to be a little average right now.
We're the best record in the country as a conference against other conferences going into last weekend, right?
Yeah, they did. And I'm going to go check that later today, but I think NCHC will still have the best record by a tiny bit, maybe. It's pretty close, but regardless, yes, it's going to be they'll be important games.
And volleyball has an important matchup with Northern Colorado. Huh?
Boy, does it ever. Northern Colorado was a team that was missing one of their better players, and since they've got her back, they've been on a roll. North Dakota felt that roll down in Greeley. See if they can get them at home here at the Betty. It'll be big.
Sounds good. After the break, special teams for the men's hockey team has had a solid start to the season, and one of the guys in charge of that, assistant coach Brad Berry, will join us in the Coach's Corner. That's coming up next.
UND fans, put on your costume and join us on Friday, October 31st for Halloween at the Ralph, as North Dakota women's hockey takes on WCHA rival Wisconsin at 7 p.m. Kids in 5th grade and under will have the opportunity to trick or treat and play games with student athletes on the concourse starting at 6 p.m. Get your tickets today at the Ralph Engelstad Arena box office or online at undsports.com.
Cities Area Transit. We go where you go.
Did you know that riding the city bus is free for UND and Northland students?
I ride the bus so I don't have to find a parking spot, and then I'm always within an easy walking distance to all of my classes.
I'm going green, so I ride my bike everywhere. But when the weather turns bad, I take the bus. And why not? It's free.
Cities Area Transit. Enjoy the ride.
I started hunting with my brothers and my dad. Hunting for me is getting away from everything, just getting out into the country, to the quiet. I enjoy hunting with my son more than anything. Someday he'll have memories like I have of hunting with my dad. There's just no better feeling when a customer says, you know, that gun you sold me last year worked perfect. That is, to me, what it's all about. I'm Leon Streifel, and I'm one of the hunting experts at Shields.
The critically acclaimed series Through These Doors returns next week with an all-new episode as the team gets ready to face their former conference rival, Wisconsin. The episode premieres Thursday, November 6th at 9 p.m. on UND Insider. We are with assistant coach Brad Berry of the UND men's hockey team. It's nice of you to stop by today.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
You've been asking and asking to come on, and we finally...
Somebody out of town, right?
Somebody's out of town. Call Brad quick. Good weekend for your team against Providence. In fact, a very good weekend with the exception of the loss of Mark McMillan. But Nate Lehman, the coach of Providence Saturday night, asked me before the game, that was their A game, wasn't it? Hoping that it was, and it was pretty close, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, both sides I thought brought A games there, and Providence, heavy team. That's a team that plays hard. They play the right way, and probably not a lot of names you'll see on a roster that you'll recognize, but kind of a team with that gets after it. They forecheck hard, and I thought we played pretty well this weekend.
What was the difference from Friday to Saturday as far as they were concerned? I thought they wanted to slow that tempo down a little bit.
I think they did. And you know what? Not taking anything away from their team, I didn't think we had the jump we had Friday night. And I think a lot has to do with special teams. We had to kill a ton of penalties on Friday. We had a ton of power plays on Friday. And a lot of those guys play similar roles. And I just don't think we had the extra gear or the extra jump to loose pucks and different things. And again, nothing against them. I think they played harder on Saturday. I just think our energy level was just a little bit lower.
But talk about special teams and the power play, and how much fun is it for you to coach a group, particularly on the backside, as Ledoux, Nick Schmaltz, Tucker Pullman, Nick Matson, guys of that caliber that can handle the puck and have in the dexterity that they have and the quickness that they have for big guys, most of them, with the exception of maybe Nick.
Well, it's fun to watch and fun to be a part of it. But the biggest thing is there's a number of things that go on within that power play. Is first, as a defenseman, to have that one-timer ability of having guys that can handle a puck, whether it's in the wheelhouse or in the front or back foot, and get a puck off to the net. So that's the first thing. The other thing, and not only defensemen, but having smart players, and by a smart player, I mean a guy that knowing the next play. Anybody can grab a puck and go, okay, I'm going to shoot it. But when that closes off, what's the next play? You always have to have like a quarterback, another option. And to have those guys that can kind of read plays just before they get there and know what the next play is, that's a big deal. And not only defense, but having forwards. I think Nick Schmaltz is unbelievable at that, as far as protecting pucks and knowing what that next play is.
Johnny Simonson, a kid from Grand Forks, was scratched the first game of the year. He's already back on the power play unit now. What do you guys see in him that fits in that unit?
I think first of all, that's a good question. First of all is tenacity. The initial part of a power play is winning a face-off, and again, he has tenacity and intensity of winning a puck back. The position he plays on his offside flank. He played that. We watched in junior. That was his spot in junior, and he had a lot of success there. Is he fully dialed in as far as perfection? Absolutely not. I mean, he has room to grow and get better at different things, but he does things right time after time after time. The other thing is you look at guys like Steph Patton and Connor Gorder, they weren't on our power play early on in the year. Those guys are predictable players. Everybody else knows what they're going to do, and they do the right things time after time, whether that's an entry of just chipping it in and going getting it if nothing's presentable. Those guys get it. And again, you want five guys on the same page. So again, it's early in the year, and guys still have to get used to their roles and as far as getting to work with each other on the cohesiveness of a unit. But like I said, it's nice to have guys that know that next play.
Providence on Saturday night, I thought we talked about it before, that what we thought they might do, or maybe to offset your power play, but by a couple penalties into the game, they were just sucking back right in front. I mean, they were going Denver on you.
Yeah.
And what can you do?
Well, you know what, and Coach Axel and I just talked about that this morning again, is you're finding that as a general tendency, not only with Denver, these guys, a lot of teams are doing that. And even 5-on-5, we went through the video, they have one or two guys that don't care about the guy behind, our guy behind in front of the net. They're there to be the initial goaltender. Mm-hmm. And, the one thing is you got to try to break it down and spread them out. But when you don't move out of the box or out of that area, they're not going to move. So you got to keep pounding. And you know what? Hopefully you get a bounce, a positive bounce where a guy in front of the net will get it. And we had a couple of those that didn't go in. But you're going to have to make them move somehow, some way. And that might be just pounding a couple at them, or hopefully they get outside and they pressure a little bit so a seam does open up.
Frank Serratori here this weekend. Get the mufflers for the earmuffs for the women and children around the bench area. Brad, thanks for being with us. We'll talk about that one later. All right, Brad Berry, assistant coach of UND men's hockey team. Coming up, it's Halloween weekend, and the panel will let us know what they plan to be for Halloween, along with what they're looking forward to. That's next.
UND Insider Weekly is sponsored by Shields. and Grand Forks Cities Area Transit.
We play to win, but it's bigger than winning. It's about authenticity, being true to yourself, genuine dreams and a country big enough to fit them, values and hard work, giving your best and giving back, working together, building a tradition bigger than any one of us, and showing the world every day who we are and how we play. We're Big Sky. We are the heart of the American West.
Welcome back to UND Insider Weekly. So what are we looking forward to this week, guys? Unless you want to tell us what you're going to dress up as on...
I'll go with what I'm looking forward to this weekend. Will Vernon Adams play out in Eastern Washington? How does UND respond from a difficult road loss? Do they get it figured out on the road? A lot of storylines to follow on that one.
Brad?
I'm looking forward to seeing how the women's hockey team comes back from that tough outing at Minnesota, playing a tough defensive team in Wisconsin. Can they get some offense going? And can they get a big win against the number 3 team in the country at home?
You would agree that they don't have to win that game, but I'm guessing that they got to perform a little better.
Well, exactly. That's it. I mean, it's different if they were to lose that game 3-2 and have shots close. That's one thing. And UND outshot them Friday night, in the second and third periods. So to come back from that, we'll see what they do this weekend.
Paul Ralston?
Well, I'm looking forward to Halloween and all the festivities that come with it. I'm thinking about going as a Sharknado this year.
Nice.
It's a real popular movie series right now, so...
That's solid.
Yeah, we'll see if that works.
Do you feel like we're too old to go door to door, or is that still okay?
I don't see why if anybody's too old. You got to go if you're going to go.
I'm going to be Phineas and Schloss is going to be Ferb.
There we go. What else I'm looking forward to? Believe it or not, this is the opening press week for UND basketball programs. The media day is coming up this week, and the first exhibition game is coming up on Sunday as UND women's basketball opens things up here at the Betty. And so I'm looking forward to seeing kind of this Maddie Buckless UND women's basketball team on the court for the first time. They've got a lot of great pieces that you're always going to miss a Maddie Buck, but I think that they have enough pieces that moving forward, this UND women's basketball team will be pretty darn good this year. Picked first in the Big Sky polls, so we'll look forward to that.
You're looking forward to the free lunch at Media Day.
That too, yes.
I'm looking forward to the rebound too, that the women's hockey team and the football team see how they come out this coming weekend. All right, thanks, guys. Catch a new episode of UND Insider Weekly in 2 weeks. The episode premiere is Wednesday, November 12th at 8 p.m. on UNDsports.com.